and activating it is what we're doing right now with putting on a big event here on Maui in January, the 3rd through the 8th. We're hoping people from around the world come. We want people who are immersed in the conscious dying field and the conscious care of the dying, as well as practitioners in the sacred work of psychedelic medicines and
Mhm.
bringing those communities together to actually grow a community around how can psychedelics be useful as another tool in helping people die well and what I call leave in peace?
We all are gonna die. 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 Why don't we help each other prepare for it? Without death, there could not be life. I'm talking about end of life conversations, conversations about the end of life. Death and dying, grief and loss, conversations about the end of life.
Welcome, everybody. We're so glad to have you back today, and we are so glad to welcome a very special guest. I am the Reverend Wakil David Matthews. Uh, we are having Reverend Bodhi Be back today. Bodhi was actually our second guest way, way back at the very beginning when we started, and so we give him a ton of credit, actually, before that even, for having mentored. Bodhi and I took, or he taught classes that I took many years ago and really kind of put the seeds that have grown out and become what this whole podcast is about. So we're so happy to have Bodhi back again after a couple of years of doing this. He is here to speak to us today about his new work. He's helping to found a new branch of his nonprofit mission, which is the Doorway into Light. Um, the new mission is the Ram Dass Institute of Psychedelic Studies with the Dying, RIPS, RIPS. RIPS is a natural evolution of their mission to approach dying as a sacred rite of passage, supported by love and consciousness. Bodhi was, like I said, one of our very first guests. So glad to have you back, and we're looking forward to hearing more about this.
I appreciate you
Yes,
making the time,
so
inviting me.
so welcome back, Bodhi. I am the Reverend Mother Ana Luisa Mendares. And like Bodhi, Wakil, we are all ordained interfaith ministers, and he is a teacher in the Sufi lineage of Samuel Lewis and Hazrat Inayat Khan. He is a founder and executive director of Doorway into Light, which has operated Hawaii's only nonprofit funeral home since 2012. Reverend Bodhi is a funeral director, an end of life and bereavement counselor, and educator. He is continuing the work of Ram Dass, who helped birth in the fields of conscious dying in the United States, which is what we'll be talking about today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah,
Glad to be here.
yeah. So I was really glad you contacted me. I've been watching you work on this project and seeing the announcements about it. So really want to hear more about this idea that you've been doing this for years. So why don't you talk a little bit about what you've been doing for years, training people to care for dying people, and then how that has moved into this new project.
Thank you. The story of what Doorway into Light has turned into really kind of hovered around my uh, being for a long time, and I was fortunate enough to, and Leila and I, my wife, were going to start an organization, Doorway into Light, and we lived down the street from Ram Dass, and he'd become a friend and a mentor. Um, and I approached him and said, this is what we want to do, and Ram Dass right away said, I've been doing that work for 40 years. I'll help you. So from that point on, he helped found the organization and remained as one of our board members until his death and continues to guide us.
Hmm.
We immediately started presenting educational programs to see who in the greater community wanted to talk about this stuff and wanted to somehow carry forth as a community around this whole piece of conscious dying and conscious care of the dying. Um, we did that since 2006 and continue to do that now, 2025. And it's evolved quite a ways in terms of our educational programs around preparing for death, conscious aging, conscious caring for dying people, a conscious openness to build capacity around showing up for a world in crisis
Mhm.
is what we and so that those workshops and programs turned into we started training death doulas, and then we started certifying death doulas, and now we're starting to train people in the doula world of caring for people with brain disorders.
Mm.
And of course, that's a giant opening field,
Yeah.
big time. And at some point, Ramdas basically entrusted us to carry on his work in the field of conscious dying in the America, and gave us permission to use his name for the Ramdas Institute of Psychedelic Studies with the Dying. And
Mm.
that's been sitting until it felt time to activate it. And activating it is what we're doing right now with putting on a big event here on Maui in January, the 3rd through the 8th. We're hoping people from around the world come. We want people who are immersed in the conscious dying field and the conscious care of the dying, as well as practitioners in the sacred work of psychedelic medicines, and
Mhm.
bringing those communities together to actually grow a community around how can psychedelics be useful as another tool in helping people die well and what I call leave in peace.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that's what we're up to in terms of wanting to really grow this community. And with Ramdas's blessing, we're now planning an event, and we're bringing a number of amazing people who work in these fields, in the medical profession, people who have been ceremonial guides in the field of conscious use of psychedelics, and
Mhm.
really curious in how they interface and how they become part of you could say toolkit of
Yeah.
how we really support people to die well. And
Mm,
and now there have been so many studies in clinical and university settings around
Yeah.
the usefulness and importance of psychedelic medicine in mental illness, depression, PTSD, uh, veterans, and
Yeah.
dying people.
Mhm.
And now, sooner or later, it'll become legal in every state, as it's starting to. And in the recognition that a lot of the medicines out there right now for mental illness and psychological imbalances don't work for
They
a
don't.
lot. I
That's
think
right.
that's
Yeah.
I think that's actually being acknowledged now, and
Mhm.
and given that now psychedelic medicines in clinical settings are actually proving to be quite effective, it seems only appropriate that that starts to integrate in what we can show up with as an option in caring for dying people.
Yeah.
What are people most what is the most challenging thing for so many dying people? The fear of the unknown, the
Yeah.
fear of annihilation, the anxieties around those fears, the depression brought on by those fears and anxieties, all of that which is now being addressed with current available Western medicines for the most
Mhm.
part.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that kind
huh.
of is the setting in which this is perfect timing. It's becoming more and more aware in so many ways to people, right? It's getting so much more airplay about psychedelic medicine,
Yeah. Yeah. And
and
more and
it's
more
it's
Mhm.
not
people.
it's not necessarily a drug to get high by
Mhm.
any means. That it is a sacred medicine, and
Yeah.
of course, it requires its use in a sacred way.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Very good.
So
Glad
that
you're
gets
doing
us
that.
up to date, and
Yeah.
uh, I could.
You went away, but you're back.
Oh, well, now I'm looking at my computer in order to look at you, which is down here, but it makes me look like I'm looking at you. So here I
Well,
am
that
again,
works.
and it's kind of odd, but so we're
It's
hoping
all good.
people will go to our website. There's a menu on doorwayintolight.org. At the top is a menu named RIPS, RIPS.
Mhm.
We're right now. It's really getting a lot of
Good.
play on Instagram and
Yeah.
Facebook, and we'll get you to include some of those links at some point. And you don't have to be involved in any of those fields, but are being, let's say, drawn and called to this event. Right? You don't need a professional, be a professional anything, You could be somebody that maybe at some point will be caring for a dying loved one, which I think is most everyone at this point, that most all of us will be called on to care for a dying loved one. And there are many people now that want to care for people beyond their own personal loved ones. This is a big opening field now, uh, what I've been
Mhm.
calling death doula for a long, long time. And we've been training death doulas since
Mm. Yeah.
2017. So um, we've got a lot of people out there now doing some
Yeah.
really important work in in really filling the gap that is a healthcare crisis in this country, as everybody by now is aware of. And too many people have to stay home from work because
Mhm.
they're the only caregiver for mom and dad, and um, and to hire people is expensive. So there's so many parts to why there's so many parts to why the death doula movement is not only growing rapidly, but I would say so needed, as you know.
Yeah, so thank you, for bringing us up to speed with all that. Louisa, do you have any thoughts or questions you wanna throw out about all that?
Oh, I love this as a service announcement for everyone who can attend. I would like to have a conversation, buddy, some other time down the road. I have mixed feelings about letting people use psychedelics in the end of life, and it has to do with indigenous peoples who have had this kind of you like this taken away from them, and then the industry decides who gets it and how much they charge for it. So there is that piece of unsettledness that I have with this. And I'm not saying that I don't think that it's a useful tool for folks who have mental illness and PTSD and anxiety around the end of diet. But I notice like it's mostly white people who get to like hold this medicine and then create an industry that pays them. So not today, but I would love to have that
I'd love to
conversation at
speak to
some
that.
point.
I have those exact concerns myself, and everything we do is nonprofit.
Yes.
Everything we do is considered ministry. All the people that work here in our organization are ordained ministers in one way or another. Uh, what we're bringing to this event is that this piece has to be held as ministry and sacred service, not as money making,
Yeah.
profit
Mm.
making.
Right.
And yes, the industry is there, but
Mhm.
that's not our work. And we're the alternative to that. And I think we're a doorway into light is known, in fact, because we everything we do is about community empowerment. As far as cultural appropriation,
Yeah.
that's
Mhm.
a huge topic. And again, I think, in my view, if you bring a sacredness to it, um, it's we're meant to have access to it. That it wasn't meant to be kept among a small thing. Cultural appropriation. It's like everything I wear now comes from is made in a different country. Almost all the food I eat comes from different
Mhm.
cultures. Almost all the music I listen to is from other cultures. So yeah, that's a big conversation, that piece. And cultural appropriation to me is like the abuse of turning something that is sacred sacred, period, not just to indigenous peoples, but is sacred and
Right.
needs to be approached in a sacred way. And
Mhm.
and it has been so abused, oftentimes to make money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what I feel about all, plant medicines in circulation at this moment. I'm from Colorado, and the marijuana industry has become, like, billions of dollars for, corporations to, like, decide to,
Mhm.
put up their shingle everywhere. And I will say, like, as a death midwife, I've been called, by people who want to use, um, ketamine or psilocybin at the end of life, and it's not a practice that I have used for people, so I don't feel comfortable, like, saying, "Yes, I can." And yet, I'm also very curious, like, never having died and never having, like, gone through this at the end of life, but I'm curious I mean, I understand the whys. I guess, are there people who shouldn't be taking this at the end of life? Because it feels like there's a little bit of integration that should happen after you have plant medicine, and if it's like as you're transferring your soul into the next realm, like how is that in kind of in loving guidance to
Beautiful,
ourselves and to the world.
beautiful.
I don't,
Well
you know.
said. Well
Yeah.
said. Yeah, there needs to be a very, uh, an intake form and an interview. There are a
Mm.
number of steps. In fact, that's
Mhm,
one of the things we want to explore at our event in January. What are the best practices? How do we approach it as sacred medicine?
Mhm.
How do
mhm,
we help people integrate the experience? How do
mhm.
we set the tone for
Right.
the, and you brought it up, psilocybin right now is the one we're particularly interested in, and ketamine as well is getting a lot of notice right now for something that
Mhm,
it takes a shorter amount of time. That's the draw about ketamine. But what you
mhm,
speak to is exactly right in terms how do we approach it? So we're immediately approaching it in a sacred way. This is not a drug you take. This is, even what you
mhm,
call it,
mhm,
even what you call it, and
Yeah.
mhm,
and that setting before there's set and setting, there's how do we even approach it? Because
mhm,
what you speak to is absolutely
Mhm.
so important. And, honestly, I don't see
Yeah.
myself taking
yeah.
psychedelics when I'm dying, and that's the,
Yeah,
yeah,
I
and
wanna
that's the
feel it.
benefit also that's the benefit
I wanna
also of
be in it.
being having a spiritual life, being a minister. It's like I'm rooted in that
Mhm.
reality to help carry me,
That's
if
right.
any fear or anxiety or dread
That's right.
shows up, that there's something deeper going on
Mhm.
in my life.
Mhm.
Even
Mhm.
Yeah.
the we're going to have a woman at this January event who's been Ramdas's caregiver for many, many, many years. And she told me right away
Mhm.
he didn't take any psychedelics and didn't want to take any psychedelics when he was dying. And I
Yeah,
know people want to know that.
yeah.
So it's not for everybody. It's not for
Mhm.
Mhm.
every
Yeah,
instance. Just like every other tools in the tool belt of caring for dying people, it's there as a
that's right.
resource.
Everyone's
Um,
yeah,
Right,
everything's
and that's
different.
what I was also going to mention because for 7 years, I was at a hospice center that wanted people with anxiety and pain to start out with well, the palliative medication, of course, was always available, but, I got trained as a Reiki master through this hospice center because they said, "We see actual benefits and wonderful support when people come in and do Reiki on somebody who has, a lot of anxiety, a lot of pain." And I did that for a long time, and I really appreciated that was in their tool belt and that actually did make people I noticeably, I have witnessed, Reiki actually supporting people and finding a sense of like, "Okay, this is gonna be okay." So, if you're offering this, will you also offer, other modalities to be supportive at the end of
Reiki is
life?
sure gonna be part of it. Certain breath, practices, um, definitely,
Mhm,
definitely. The difference between and I'm glad you brought it up, the difference between, taking, psilocybin, versus the palliative medicines that Western medicine offers, all of which have their value. Um I mean, we excel at pain medication in the West. Hardly anybody ever dies in pain. But the
mhm.
downside of not dying in pain
That's
is you're
right.
left with your suffering. And that's what often shows up.
Yeah.
And the difference is that Western medicines basically cover up the pain, right? Psilocybin is about going through
Mhm.
it
Mhm,
into a much bigger picture of what's actually going on and who you are. So it's a very different thing than
mhm,
another drug. So you're not in pain or you're not depressed. It takes you
Yeah.
through it. That's a big difference.
Mhm.
yep.
That's huge.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
happy to hear that that's all going to be on this, wonderful buffet of
I'm so glad
end-of-life
you brought it up,
care.
Anna Lusa,
Well,
Lusa, because those are critically important questions that we want to address
Mhm,
out front. The most important
yeah.
being, as far as we're concerned, Doorway into Light and the Ram Dass Institute of Psychedelic Studies with the Dying. This is sacred work. Caring for the dying
Yep.
itself is
mhm,
sacred work, and that's how it needs to be
mhm,
held as
mhm,
ministry and sacred service.
Mhm.
mhm.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I would also, make the point that I was noticing in the introduction that we said, it was a only nonprofit in Hawaii. I looked it up, and I think it's actually the only nonprofit
I
in
just
the
found that out.
United
I
States.
just found that out.
So
I'm like, right here in haiku, and,
really?
and why is that? That's
Little
a
haiku.
sad thing. Um, And again, we all know
That
because it's
is.
a mega industry, a mega the other 2 funeral homes on
Yep.
Maui are
Mhm.
run by the 2 biggest funeral home corporations in the galaxy. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
so we're
Mhm.
holding up that flag
Yeah,
because,
it's that's
we're not selling anything. People
yeah,
come in here and like, "What's" we're not selling anything, and people immediately get a sense right away something else is going on here. People just wanna help us.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, what an incredible idea. I love it. That's so good. So, tell me more a little bit more, if you would, about the people who are coming, some of the guests
Uh,
that you have coming to
let's
the,
see, Lady Bird Morgan,
event?
has been working in this very field. She's a nurse, works in Commonweal and a number of organizations I'm not gonna try to remember in this moment, and she's been helping and supporting, people in their dying, and sometimes, with the use of psilocybin. Dr. Ira Zunin,
Mhm.
who's got a alternative medical clinic on Oahu, also is very steeped in the Tibetan story of the different levels of dying. The Bardo is very versed in it, and also a very broad view of because he also has been with so many people who are dying. Dream Mullick, who also very immersed in psychedelics themselves and the healing power of of psychedelics. Um, Adasima, again, the caregiver for Ramdas for so many years. I'll be presenting as someone now with a lot of experience and skills in what does dying well look like, and what does it ask of us, and how can we support people to die well?
Mhm.
What does that actually mean? Because some people will come that don't know what that is. Who else is coming?
Right.
Oh,
Right.
Dr. Charlotte
Yeah.
Charfin, an emergency doctor on the Big Island, who also has been not only offering trainings in caring for dying people, but sitting at the bedside and with the medicine um, when appropriate. Um, I don't know if I'm. Oh, Mary Lane, who's coming here, who's written a number of books about sacred medicines in healing and in dying. I'm not even getting everybody. It's an amazing array of people.
That's
Sounds
yeah,
so
it sounds
important.
like, we'd probably, like, wanna take a little bite of everybody's
Absolutely,
classes, and we
absolutely,
would
and then,
not
of
get
course, we
enough.
want time for people to talk to each other because I know a number of people, again, in terms
Mhm.
of, really agreeing on what dying well is and what common the best practices are in meeting that, with sacred
Mhm.
medicine, so we're super
Yeah.
excited about it. It's a big thing for a big step for us. And,
Mhm.
It is
may the
exciting.
gods be with us.
Yeah, yeah, I'm so glad that's happening. I love the approach too to really, I mean, it's often the case, and this is kind of what Ana Luisa was speaking to earlier, that people just say, "I've got a great idea. Let's do this because I
Yeah.
thought of it," you know? You know?
They're not
Um,
ever
eh
it's like the lineage behind them is
yeah, yeah, and so I love that you're really acknowledging
Mhm.
that this needs to
Mhm.
be a community. This needs to be thought about as a community, needs to emerge, in a way that the community, speaks to, and the people that know that have that not only that wisdom, but that passion for it are willing that step up and speak to, what would this look like? What would the best possible practices be so that you really come out with something that makes a lot of sense and that I'm sure emerges over time too, that stays
Mhm.
flexible and
Mhm.
emerges over time
Of
as
course,
lessons are learned. So
I'm sorry, go ahead.
that's no, that's I'm just saying that's really good. I look forward to hearing more
Well,
about
of
it.
course, we
Go
need
ahead.
people that are trained and skilled in sitting at the side of somebody
Yeah.
who's taken psilocybin, for example. That's one side of the story. The other side of
Yeah.
the story is from the beginning, we've been about returning caring for the dying to community work, not to experts, not to
Mhm.
professionals,
Mhm.
not to strangers, but to our community caring for our dying and our dead.
Right.
That's been it from the
Mhm.
get-go for us. We wanna take back what we've given away, really given away, and I speak often about what we lost in giving it away, and, which I know you're very aware
Mhm.
of, um, and really returning this work to community. This is what we do as a village. This
Mhm.
is the way we
Yeah.
take care of each
Yay.
other. This is what builds community.
Yeah. Yep. That's the way we're gonna go from here through the chaos and collapse. We're gonna come
Yes,
back with
that's right.
mutual aid and community caring for each other. So, yeah, that's our way forward. Go ahead, Annalisa.
Oh, no, I think that that's really essential. It just occurred to me, and I'm almost out of time here, I gotta get going, but I was gonna say, when we were ordained as interfaith ministers, because we didn't come from an organized religious setting, we had to have our community be there to see us and to ordain us,
Mhm.
and I think that is a huge piece that is missing in a lot of different communities around mutual aid, but specifically me, like, being in the positive death industry world, we don't have enough community who stands on a very, very, like, an essential foundation of I'm going to learn to support others. I'm going to be held accountable to my community. Like just like as spiritual directors, we go to supervision to talk about those hard things. I think this if this is going to be happening, we do need to like set up the foundational pieces for people to like not only be clearly safe people who are doing this work, but actually stay safe in themselves. And until that's happened, right? Like the industry, the funeral industry will just like nab us because we will grind ourselves to nothing and we will become
Fodder.
very yeah. So I mean, I hope this is a really great start to this, and I hope more people will actually invest in not only I don't want it to be like this extractive learning and then they're gonna go back to Louisiana and say, "I can do psilocybin deaths now," because that actually happens too. But I'm gonna be in community with people who are gonna be continually talking about best practices, acknowledging that this is a lineage that is not from, Europeans or I don't know where it comes from, but it's from this land, and we're going to continue to be, you know, keeping a clean heart.
Yeah,
Mm.
and what I heard was, when we started training death doulas, uh, right now and since 2017, you need to take a course, either an online course with us or an on Maui course with us as a prerequisite to then take a year-long, certification program where that includes 15 hours a month of sitting with dying people. So there's a lot to our training around death
Mhm.
doulas, and of course, as you know, now you can become a certified death doula online in a weekend. Uh, yeah.
Online,
Yeah.
over the weekend,
Yeah.
never having seen a dead
It's so
person. It just
America, though.
baffles
It's
me.
so
Yeah, it is. It really is. And you probably pay $5,000 for that option. Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
my wife does when Rafaela Wendy does music therapy, and that's been an issue forever. She went
Mhm.
to graduate school for this. She did years and years of internship and training, and then people go to a weekend on sound healing and come out and say they're
Yeah.
doing music therapy, and they're not.
Mhm.
And so this happens a lot. And you're right. It's the capitalist system that we live in. That let's see how we can make money from this. I was going to ask, so that kind of leads to this question that I had in my heart, was my mind was how how is what is the relationship with the funeral industrial complex, and are they likely to is there a healthy way for them to be a part of this conversation, and is there something we should be guarding against as far as their picking it up and walking
there's
and running
probably a
off from
lot
it?
of answers to that, but I think right away what comes to me is it's the difference between a nonprofit organization and a for-profit organization, and no matter how well-meaning the funeral home is downtown, at the bottom line, they're selling. And in fact, they're pressured and
Yeah.
motivated to
Mhm.
upsell. And so at the
Mhm.
core of
Yeah.
any
Mhm.
conversation, including psychedelics, even more there's even more sensitivity around it, which again, why this has to be ministry and not for profit and sacred
Hmm.
service.
Yep.
Annalisa said something about getting up and demonstrating to your community. That is the work of ministry. And now I'm starting to actually train ministers in the Sufi
Yeah.
lineage.
Mhm.
And I did this extensive training to become a minister in the Sufi lineage that goes back at least 1,000 years. But the final exam was when I was told to get up in front of everybody and demonstrate your ministry. That right? And you had to do
Yeah.
that, and now I've been doing that ever since, and get called on for all kinds of memorials and
Mhm.
funerals and, et cetera, and I feel fortunate and honored to, be useful in that way. That's big work, but that's what ministry is about.
Yeah.
It's about, helping people, become deeper people and And another way to say that is to
Yeah.
come into the deep relationship of the self and of this of their soul and of God, whatever name you give to it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Very good. Okay. Well, let's see. Anything else that you can think of that we missed that we should speak to? That you'd like to
We
make
covered
sure
a lot of
people know
ground. I
before
don't,
they
that was a lot, and I appreciate every piece you
Yeah.
added to it that, helped kinda stir a little more out of me too. So, yeah,
Yeah.
we covered a bit.
Yeah.
We covered a
Yeah.
lot, and
Well, I'm very glad we could well, good. Well, we'll make sure this gets up soon so that people know and can start planning to get over to Maui. I think I would love to do that. I have
I
well,
know, I was gonna say,
come
yeah, that
on,
I
sounds
was
like
I
a
was
you
good
waiting to
will.
say
idea.
I
after I was
want you to
like,
be there.
"Can I make this happen?"
Come.
I
Yeah,
wish I
People
could
that
I
come
will look
through
at the
this
dates and
site,
see
we'll
what
give a
happens.
discount to.
sounds good. And yeah, that is raise the
There
question,
are
is there
scholarship
scholarship
funds
funds at
and,
all?
as much as we need to, charge, tuition, we we wanna balance that out with the people that really wanna be there and can't afford to be there, or the people that need to be there and can't afford to be there. We wanna help people be there, and that's what we've done with every program and training, from the beginning. So,
Yeah.
we make sure
Yep.
that,
Yep.
um, people that really wanna be there and need to be there, we give discounts to, and
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for both the people who might need that help and the people who could provide that help, make sure
Mhm.
that you're paying attention and offer participate in this in any way you can. Well, wonderful. Thank you so much,
Thank
Bodhi.
you.
So good to see you again and looking forward to seeing you soon. I'll be
no,
out there in
Thanks a lot.
January,
February,
come in
inshallah.
January, January 3rd to the 8th.
January. Yeah, January 1st. Maybe I'll just stay there. I mean, why not? Why go home?
Yeah, sounds amazing.
All
Thank you
right.
both,
Okay.
Thank you
thank you
very
both very
much.
much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us today. Please stick around after the credits for our afterthoughts, and it helps our numbers if you stay until the end. We want to thank my children, Nate, Vivian, Nina, and her fiance Asher, for the excellent opening song, and a special thanks to our awesome editor, Sam Zemke, who is also a guest on our podcast. You can listen to him on Season 4, Episode 5. Also, thank you to Charles Heaston, the composer of the original music you are listening to now.
And of course, thanks to you, our audience, and all of our amazing guests. Please come back next week for another great episode. Share this with your friends, family, and community. We hope you will subscribe and follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, and Substack. Each guest's additional information will be found in the podcast notes. And of course, if you have a good end-of-life story to share, please reach out. We are always eager to hear from you.
Such an interesting conversation.
Yeah,
Again.
I'm glad we did actually have a conversation. At the beginning, I wasn't so sure.
Yeah.
And you can edit that part out, but but yeah,
Well, and I think there's a lot this actually could be another place for us to do deep dives because I have my
yeah.
misgivings about folks, especially white people, taking
Mhm,
medicine.
mhm.
And I'm grateful that there is some kind of relief for people who have mental illnesses
Yeah,
and are
yeah.
dying with, really hard spaces. So it's a both appreciative and curiously, wondering.
Well, and I appreciate that he's thinking about that too, and that he's holding it as
Mhm.
sacred and as nonprofit, and I mean, that makes a huge difference in my mind anyway when it comes to that stuff, is that if we are going to exploit, um,
Extract,
extract,
exploit,
yeah, exploit,
yeah, take.
exact,
It's
yeah,
just taking.
that we do that if we feel like there's a reason for I mean, it's true, our world is so open now. We have so much access
Mhm.
to so many things, and we can decide we don't want to do that, and maybe that's not fair to the people who can benefit from it, right?
Mhm.
So if there's a way that we can help people benefit from it and still be honoring and sacred and thoughtful about it,
Mhm.
that's I think
And
what we all have to do, and that's kind of what he spoke to, I think, and what he's trying to
and
do.
also yeah, and also, I mean, it could be beneficial, but there are lots of tools to help people.
Yeah,
Plants are, plant medicine is not the only and people want to because they think that's like the end all. And I just,
yeah,
I
that's
keep
the
going
point.
back to like breath work,
Mhm.
there's
Reiki,
like
yeah.
Reiki, there's so many other tools in this tool
Yeah.
chest, and, it's kind of a sexy thing these days. Everybody wants to do shrooms. So, I'm holding it with, like, a both hand for myself,
I
so,
love it. Yeah, I love it. That's
I
important. And that's why you should go to the conference.
I should, I really should. I'm like, "Wait a second, point of
I'll help you.
order."
If I
Okay,
can, maybe we'll both go. We'll see. All
we'll
right,
see.
much love.
Alright, much
Adios.
love. Adios. Ciao.